everybody, to another episode of Stoli Doli Scaries.
My name is John Ritchie Jr.
My name's Kyryn Hayes, and this is part deuce of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Johnny, take it away, narrator. Where did we leave off last time?
Oh my goodness. Okay, we just got done with Missy, and we got the girlies in the car, Helen and Julie. And then we enter Helen's house, which is where I believe we left off. And so Helen enters the house. Her dad is at home watching TV in the living room. She says hi, and he doesn't even acknowledge her. She goes to the fridge and grabs a Diet Coke. Product placement. The killer pretty much just walks inside and closes the door real quiet and unsheathes his hook. He goes into the hallway and then casually up the stairs, and Helen follows after her beverage. She drinks her Diet Coke in the kitchen, and then she walks up, and there's this, like, we know the killer is in her room, and we're like, she possibly can't go in there, but she does anyway. She goes into the hallway, up the stairs, and they walk in the same room. We get a focus shot on her closet. She undresses and gets into her oversized silky button down. She pulls her crown off the shelf and then is startled by her sister Elsa. Elsa tells her, we're doing inventory at the store tomorrow morning and we need you to be there by 10 a.m. She says she can't because she's in the parade tomorrow. She combatively says, well, Dad put me in charge of the store and I want you there by 10. The outgoing queen has to ride in the parade prior to the pageant. It's tradition. There's nothing she can do about it. So while Helen is brushing her hair, Elsa says, you and your hair, it's so pathetic. And I'm thinking in this moment, like, jealous much?
What the fuck is pathetic about brushing your hair? Hair care is very important, Elsa. She's just fuck right off. It's always something with her. She says something when she comes into the room, like having a has-been moment, or like something when she's looking at her crown. Like she says something sassy then too. She's such a bitch. She's awful. Awful. But also, how did that dad... now I'm kind of wondering if the dad is catatonic, because how did the dad not see a large man enter? Like, you can see his shadow because they cut to the dad. They cut to the dad and they cut to this man literally walking in, and the dad is just baseball. Like, I don't understand how he completely missed it.
And there's so many of those scenes in horror movies where you're just like, you know, it's the yelling at the screen moments for sure. You're just like, really?
Yeah.
You didn't see his ass? You didn't fucking hear that step? There isn't a creak in the floor? Come on.
It's true.
But they have an exchange of words, Elsa and Helen, and, you know, the killer's in the room somewhere. So there's a little bit of anxiety. Elsa leaves the room and Helen drifts off to sleep. And night quickly turns to morning. And Helen does wake up alive. But the music intensifies. We get a close-up shot. She wakes up with her crown on her head, but her hair is shredded.
It was so reminiscent of the Godfather scene with the horse head. Do you know what I'm talking about? They really like leaned. You never seen the Godfather? What?
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
Oh my God, Johnny! Well, you know what? It's if you knew it, I'll put a clip of it in this episode just so that you can see what it is iconic. But there's a scene that's very big in The Godfather where somebody doesn't agree to something that the Don wants, and so, you know, as revenge, they cut off his prized horse, his head, and they put it in the bed. And so he wakes up the next morning. He's like, ah! This is a little bit less intense than that. But I don't know. I would be devastated. How did she not feel somebody? Because that had to have been like a big, like it's not a perfect chop. Like I, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Also, it's a really, I'd be very upset, but he gave her a shoulder length cut. He didn't give her a pixie. It could have been awful. That could have been really, absolutely could have been so much worse. I mean, it stinks. And she loved her hair. She's like Marsha Brady brushing it, but still.
He panics and gets up to see soon is written on her vanity mirror in lipstick.
Mhm.
So Helen smashes her mirror right in the center while screaming, "No!" Doesn't she know that breaking a mirror is 7 years bad luck? And then she quickly calls Julie, who's just enjoying the morning sun with her balcony door open. And
And she all of a sudden looks out of her depression in a low cut shirt, bangs washed. All of a sudden, she looks fabulous.
oh, so okay, so since you said that, we can talk about this because I did read that the director or the writer, I forget, wanted her to shoot like a nude scene in the movie at some point, and she said no. So that's why they kind of have her in like low-rise jeans and crop tops and like a little bit more skin. So I'm glad that you noticed that. But I thought that that was like,
It was egregious. She was in some overalls and a hat a scene ago, and now she's in like this very sexy, like midriff. She looks totally fine. So, what scene would they like? Where would it have been appropriate for her to be naked? What's with these people?
maybe at the end, but
Mm,
that's like the only. I mean, like
yeah.
Barry gets the shower scene.
Well, and thank God for that. But was it necessary? Yes, that was necessary. I don't know.
We need to objectify men more in
I
movies.
agree. I, I, I mean, how dare they? And like, as a way of getting back at her, you don't want to be a naked scene? Here's a low cut shirt. Ew! What a bunch of ickies. Gross.
Here's the compromise crop top.
Awful. Awful.
So Helen calls Julie, tells her the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Julie hops in the car and heads to Helen, but something on her way over is making a noise in the car. And we can't really tell what it is. It's kind of like a clicking, a rattling. She looks back in the seat, but the only thing back there is that miserable hat she wears. That seat before. Um, she gets to Helen's, she parks the car, she gets out of her Dodge and circles the car because it seems like it's coming from the trunk. So she goes over to it, lifts the hood, and we find Mr. Max as a cadaver with crabs crawling all over him.
Oh no! It is pretty. Like his mouth is open and like a crab is crawling out of it. They really did Max dirty in this movie. That guy. Mm. Mm-mm.
So, fun fact, while filming this scene, Jennifer Love Hewitt was so upset by what she saw in the trunk, because her and Johnny Galecki were old friends, that she broke down crying and production came to a halt.
Be a professional. Really? That's that's kind of unbelievable.
And he had to call the set to reassure Jennifer Love Hewitt that he was fine and it was just a body cast they had made of him.
I mean, it was really lifelike. Production did an amazing job, but that seems a bit of an extreme reaction. Well, she gives a great performance. She looks really shook, but I don't I don't know how to react to that news, but that's very interesting. Production had to shut down. Did she
Halt. She started crying.
did she not know that that was what the scene was? You know what I mean? Like, was that not in the script? I don't know. That's interesting.
Did they not tell these children what they were going to be getting into? You're shooting a horror film. Um,
I put
Julie frantically shuts the trunk and runs over to Helen, who is being consoled by Barry in her room. She tells them what she saw, and they all go over together to investigate. Helen is now sporting a baseball cap because she doesn't want anyone to see her bad haircut.
It's like a newsboy cap. It's not a baseball cap. And my favorite is that, like, when Julie, like, rushes into the room, it's like, she doesn't have the hat on. And when they all come rushing out, she has that newsboy cap on. So she was, if somebody rushed in here and said, there's a dead body in my trunk, would I grab a hat right away to cover up my bad hair day? It shows where her priorities lie.
I mean, she is very, she cares a lot about her appearance, so maybe her
And
character would do that.
I don't know if that hat helped it though, but that's a point. That's a good point. Sure. Yeah.
So they go over to the trunk. Barry opens it up, and voila! No Max, no crabs, no
Not even
nothing.
the hint of the crabs. This guy is cleanup crew extraordinaire. How could there not be even the slightest hint? No wetness, no nothing. He's a miracle worker.
Seriously. And that is a debate online too. It's like, how did he clean that up so quickly? Where was he hiding? Was he in the slicker when he did it? I just imagine like somebody must have saw him carry something out of a trunk. I mean, like, I think I would notice if like somebody was like walking down the street in a black rain slicker
I with a body,
with a
like with a human body.
and there were no crabs on the ground, like a trail of crabs.
Like, how long was she gone? Like, how far did she run? I, I, there's a lot of follow-up questions that the scene leaves us with that were never really answered.
So Julie knows what she saw, and she tells them, no, he was right here. And he was wearing your jacket, Barry. And Barry asks, where did he go? Did the crabs carry him away?
Which is pretty funny of Barry. He's so silly.
That's Barry. They talk about the whys, but she says, I don't know, why did he run you over? Why did he make coleslaw on Helen's head? He's fucking with us.
Weird way to put that, though. Also, I don't know if that's so. Why did he cut Kellen's hair? That's all we had to say. Coleslaw.
I mean, I saw that in the rewatch and I was like, what is she talking about? She's losing her mind.
Oh, yeah.
Barry tries calming her down, but she urges that this is exactly what he wants. He's got us now. We can't go to the police. Not now. And he's made sure of that. So then we pan out in this wonderful shot. And Julie says he's just out there and he's watching us and waiting. And she screams, what are you waiting for, huh? Aerial shot. And I have another tidbit from this.
What's your tidbit?
It says the infamous "What are you waiting for" scene, which features the spinning camera, was directed by a kid who won a contest to come on set and direct a scene. Jennifer Love Hewitt stated at the time she felt the scene was silly, but in hindsight, it remains one of the most memorable scenes of the film.
I agree with her. I do think it's silly. I fucking hate it. I hate that scene. What are you doing? I do have a fun tidbit.
You can't see my arms stretched.
Like, it's just over dramatic, and I love that like Barry and Helen are just watching her do it, like unnecessary. I on the documentary that I watched about the filming of the movie, they wanted Jennifer Love Hewitt to play Helen's character, but she just didn't identify with her. She identified more with Julie, the good girl, the whatever. And so the scene that she read for Julie to prove that she should be Julie was the scene is, what are you waiting for? And they said that like when she did it, and then she would kind of like giggle, and they felt like that was Julie. She was Julie. So this was what got her the part. But it's silly. It's not necessary.
I think the next scene is way better.
I know you do.
I'm ready for my close up. They all walk back to the house where Ray appears, and he's been looking everywhere for them. And uh, Barry immediately goes up and says, "You're gonna die," and socks him in the face. Barry is fully convinced that Ray is behind all of it and that he's the one that's fucking with them.
I don't blame him. Ray is being mega fucking weird. He's been weird this whole movie. He's been suspicious. He's hiding something. We all know we are not getting the full truth from Ray.
And then they're all four of them are together after the scuffle, and the next line goes a little something like this. "Look, he's after me too. I got a letter." And Barry says, "Oh, you got a letter? I got run over. Helen gets her hair chopped off, Julie gets a body in the trunk, and you got a letter? That's balanced."
You've been waiting for this your whole life, and you nailed it.
Everyone out there will never understand the amount of times I watch this film and memorize that that scene because it was so good to me.
It's so, for anybody wondering, when Johnny was maybe 12 or 13, he was staying at our house. We were having a fun cousins weekend, and we had a computer room. And on the old PCs, you could do there's those little recording buttons. And he recorded a few movie lines by yourself. And I don't know why you did an amazing job, and you really were the part. And this was one of the lines that you recorded. And I think of it every single time I watch. I know what you did.
I also think, this was a stage in my life where like culture was being very much infused into me in general. And I feel like we used to watch a shit ton of movies and we would quote them all the time. We were watching like Clueless and what was that one with the girls, the four girls? Now and Then.
Oh my God. Jeez.
Just like
Jeebus. Yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one.
We would just all watch movies in the basement and just like recite lines all the time. So like it seems like this is very brand appropriate for me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I loved it. One of my favorite little Johnny memories. But
Take it to the grave.
I'm so glad we're watching this movie because you did that perfectly. You were ready for it. You've been ready for it since a long time.
It's been a long time coming. I'm glad that everyone got to hear it. I'll be accepting my Emmy soon.
Well deserved. Absolutely. Nailed it.
So Ray is confused about the body. He didn't know that Julie had a body in her trunk. And Barry is accusing him, and they exchange some stupidity. And then here comes Mama Julie. We have to stick together. We have to help each other.
Get a grip.
And Barry says, well, if it's not Ray, then how do we find him? And Julie blurts out that they think his name is Billy Blue. And Ray says, how do you know that? And they discuss their run-in with Missy, who mentioned something about his age and being in the class of 92, which coincidentally is the same as Elsa. So they go right to the yearbook.
And but when they bring up Billy Blue, Ray's very weird. Because Billy Blue, well, wait, I don't even have myself. Go ahead.
Honestly, Billy Blue does sound like a fucking made up name. I mean, Billy Blue who? Who is he blowing? We're fucking looking through this yearbook. He says, well, maybe Blue isn't his real name.
Well, also, they're looking through this yearbook and they come across David Egan, who is the boy that they believe that they killed,
Mhm.
who looks quite young. And granted, this is an old yearbook, but like, do they not remember the man that they they killed, they ran over? And like, what is it? Barry makes a comment like, well, his face isn't spilled out on the road or something like that. So he looks a little different in this picture. The man they hit had like a cut. His face wasn't like mangled beyond recognition, and he was an older gentleman. He grabbed you looked him in the eye. Like, I don't understand how they could be so stupid as to not remember what the person they ran over kind of looked like. And you're off about 30 years. That's not like, oh, we thought he was 25 and he's 35. Like, this was a big leap, man. And they don't question anything.
These fucking kids, they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
They are scared shitless out of their mind, and so they make up this plan to go see Missy again. Let's show her the picture. We'll point out the guy and see if that was the person they were talking to. And Ray says, "Well, I'm not going." And also, why is he so concerned about having a high school mugshot? Like,
You're
dude,
all becoming a bunch of vigilantes. What the fuck is this guy's deal? Like, he couldn't be more overt that he is fishy, that he has something to do with this. Like, or he's not telling them something. He's being very weird. Like, Ray needs to hide some things a little bit better because it's noticeably weird.
classic Ray behavior. He's a turd. Julie says that she'll go see Missy. And Helen, don't worry, you go to the parade. And Barry, you should join her so that she feels safe. And that's when we get Ray's vigilante line. And then we hear from Julie, it's the 4th. It's the 4th, okay? This is his day. Whatever he has planned is going to happen unless we stop him. Julie is not interested in doing what's right anymore. She wants to do what's smart, but I'm not seeing a lot of smart things happening either. So Julie wants her life back, and they have to face it. And then we are thrusted right into the 4th of July parade. Barry is sitting on the croaker float while
How did he get
Helen...
a seat? That bugs me. How did nobody quite? This man is sitting like right front and center on this float. What the fuck? He wouldn't get that. Plot
just
hole.
just chilling on the front. While Helen sits perched on top in a clamshell, a life-size clamshell, which I feel like that should be a meme of just like Helen in a clamshell. Like, you could put your own words to it, but it is definitely a scene that is memorable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, she's not so ashamed of her hair now, is she?
Also, it's a perfect haircut. I mean, it doesn't look as good as her long hair, but did she go get it done? Maybe she got it done. Did she have
She didn't
time to
have,
get it done?
oh, she didn't have time.
It's a perfect cut. Is he a secret hairstylist?
He gave her a killer cut. There's plenty more where that came from. Barry and Helen are smirking at each other.
There's
And
an
we're
acting
wondering,
there.
is there something still there? High school romance. But then Helen spots the fisherman staring at her and alerts Barry, who chases after him and runs through the crowd to find him walking down the dock and tackles him from behind. Helen's float starts to move along, but Barry realizes it's just an old man under this slicker
This
who
poor
looks
old
like this guy looks like he is shocked to see the sun.
man. And also, why are there so many fucking rain slickers? Do that many people wear rain slickers? I know it's a fishing town, but full costumed, low hat, like they're everywhere in the crowds. That's why Helen got it wrong. She's they're everywhere. So
This scene is like a fucking Where's Waldo of rain slickers because honestly, it's the 4th of July in the South, so it's fucking hot. Nobody's wearing a rain slicker in daylight. The parade is during the day. So she sees someone, it winds up not being the person. Barry takes down the guy. We realize it's not him, and then we get to Julie, who pulls up at old Missy's house, yearbook in hand. Um, there's a nice dead bird in the front yard, hanging by its feet, and there's no answer at the open screen door. Amongst the hides laid out all over the property fences, Missy comes walking around the house with a knife in her hand. Julie
Like
asks,
her. Like very weird. Not just like holding it like this. Like this lady
"It's our girl, Anne Heche." Um, Julie asks if she remembers her, and then we go right back to Helen on the float. So it's like, you know,
yeah.
the suspense is happening, but it is a little like
Yeah.
um. So we go right back to Helen on the float, trying to find any other suspicious characters in the crowd. She sees a few hats, but none that is the one until she looks up and spots our boy watching her on the deck. And he eventually brandishes his hook, and that's how we know it's our man. And then right back to Julie with Missy, gutting fish in her yard. Um, and she says, "I was hoping you could look in this yearbook." And Missy cuts her off and says, "What's this all about?" And it's too crazy to explain, but it has to do with your brother. And they're having this back and forth conversation. So Julie is very brave in bringing up this story. I was like shocked that she went there. Um, but she says, what happened to your brother wasn't an accident, and there's more to it than that. And she says that she knows, or Missy says, "Oh, I know, that he killed himself." And so Missy is in full belief that her brother killed himself. And so now we're putting pieces together about the story as a whole, because Missy's character before and like what our main characters knew is all starting to, like, all the crossroads are coming to the main point.
Like all I put was, Julie, read the room. You're giving out way too much info. Like she was very brazen, too brazen. Like you have to kind of like poke around. She kind of did the same thing before with Missy. I felt like she was too like vocal, and like you need to say less, listen more, ask questions. Like she's just too forthright with all this information. It's like, you don't, this lady just came at you with a knife. Like you don't, why are you giving all this information to a stranger and you're about to tell her that, I won't say, but like she gives way too much information to this woman.
Yeah. Um, she goes, Missy goes into the story that her brother went up to the cliff that night to die, because that's where his girlfriend Susie died. And so now we're putting the pieces together from the beginning. This kid on the cliff, we're starting to understand a little bit about his character. And she mentions that the whole town blamed him for her death, and so he blamed himself. And so, he was not in the right headspace when we first saw him, scene one. Um, Julie asks how she knows it was a suicide, and Missy says because he left a note. And Missy brilliantly says that they wouldn't pay her the money if they knew it was a suicide, so that's why she hid it. But that doesn't matter because the money's been spent. But the note that she brings out is the same handwriting that the letter that Julie got in the beginning. It's the same handwriting as basically the same note. But it reads, "I will never forget last summer," which, I mean, if we make 8 movies, that could be the end title of the last one. I will always never forget the time last summer when it's going to be a whole fucking run-on sentence. So now knowing what Julie knows from the first note she got and then seeing this faux suicide note, she says, that's not it. This is a death threat. Missy is very confused, but Julie says that she saw her brother that night and whoever wrote this was there too. And she explains the whole story. She says that, he was crossing the road and they hit him and that it was an accident. And Missy said, no, he drowned. And Julie says that she saw Susie tattooed on his arm, which is a callback because Susie was dating
David
now
E. Yeah.
David Egan.
Yeah.
But Missy still denies that he ever had a tattoo, and emotions are starting to get high at this point, and she tells her to leave. Missy's like, just get out of here. And Julie now realizes that it wasn't her brother that they hit that night.
Finally, because realizing that her brother is about 30 years younger than the man that you hit was not enough of a clue. Jewel.
Yeah, at least we're getting something out of that. And also, I think it's kind of fun because now it's like, oh, we're involved in the like figuring it out who it is. And everybody's suspicious of Ray. And like, I think the writing, which I really appreciated, and because it's the same guy who did Scream, that it's always a little bit of a whodunit, and this was like, that's what it was giving me. I was like, oh, okay, so now we just got another puzzle piece. Where are we going now?
Yeah.
Well, then we move right along to the theater where Helen won her crown the year prior, and she is scared that the killer is still out there. And Barry says that he'll be in the balcony overlooking everything and not to worry. And
They're
Helen
having
comes.
a moment here. They've like very rekindled their romance. He's rubbing her arm and there's energy there. They've gotten it back.
They're back just like a high school back. You know what
Back.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, Barry says he'll be in the balcony. Helen comes on stage to crown the next winner, and they proceed to go through the talent part of the competition with all the girls on stage. Basically, the same thing that we saw when Helen won.
Yeah.
When there's these moments where she can't really see Barry up in the balcony because the lights are on her and in her face, and so she's like constantly looking side to side. But then she spots the killer, and he is up on the balcony with Barry, and she screams out to Barry.
What was that man doing in a balcony? What is their deal with this balcony? Also, why can't they just sit in the crowd with people? Like when a killer is after you, what makes you think going to the one isolated area in the room is the good idea? Just these fucking people. And also, if she was in danger, was he going to fly off the balcony down to her? Like you're the furthest away from her and you're also by yourself, very, very,
I agree. I think, he was trying to get an eagle eye view, because if the killer was just chilling in the crowd in his rain slicker, then maybe he would be able to spot him. But clearly that wasn't the move.
That's a good point. You can see a lot. I didn't think about that. I was just thinking how unsafe it must be because Helen was safe. What was the killer going to come on stage? Like she was the safest person in the room. He was the one.
Well, the next part that happens, we should was she the safest one in the room? I mean, like, she yells Barry and then runs down the middle of the aisle, and people get out of their chair and swarm her
and stop her. They're holding her back, and like she's screaming, "Say that!" And they're literally. That's all I put. I was like, nobody would stop her. Who the fuck's stopping her? If you yell somebody is being killed and you're running towards it, like very unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, like, nobody's looking up to like, she's yelling that I it's just one of those moments where it's definitely for effect, but, poor Barry up there is, getting hooked multiple times. Um, it's very, pale in comparison to Max's hook through the throat because that was, like,
Max one was so personal, and that dude had the least to do with it of anybody. He was a full on, basically stranger. Poor Max. Justice for Max.
yeah, seriously. Um, yeah, Barry gets hooked multiple times, and it's to be deduced that he did not make it. Um, she's screaming bloody murder downstairs. Nobody's paying attention. They finally go up to the balcony. She goes with a police officer up there to investigate. Um, Yet no one or anything is up there. Kind of like the disappearance of Max in the trunk, there is not a single.
Oh. I mean, because this was less time, they had to have gone right up there. Like, right? I mean, like, at least with the trunk thing, like, I felt like there could have been a lot of time in between because Helen's house was further. But, like, they went right up there. Like, how could he have taken a body, any type of blood? Like, it's truly impressive, honestly.
The only thing I can think of, and because this police officer is kind of a D-bag,
Big time.
um, is that he barely looks. I mean, like, he goes down the one, like,
Mm,
small passageway and he's looking with his fucking dinky flashlight, and he maybe, like, does, like, a little, yep, no one's up here. This
yeah.
is it. But,
Yeah.
like, it seems like there's some things up there. Um, Boxes and crates and all sorts of shit. Uh, that he didn't really look hard enough. And I feel like if you were Helen and you saw nothing, wouldn't you be like, I'm going to look every inch of this place?
Yeah. When he was, I mean, when she was screaming like "There's a big out," and everybody stops her, and this cop comes up to her, everybody is so like relaxed about the situation. And I don't know, does Helen have a history of like screaming about dead bodies? Everyone's like, oh, but like this cop comes up to her and is like, what's go what'd you say? Like he's very lackadaisical about the entire thing. Very like typical town cop in a movie. I'm just like, I don't understand what's going on in this town that everyone wouldn't react with like utter like terror at somebody seeing that. Like, why don't we trust Helen?
Yeah. He thinks she's playing a joke.
Yeah.
And she reiterates that she saw a fisherman kill Barry. And he says, who's Barry? they they both go downstairs. We just see a little bit of blood on the banister dripping down in a scene that we know that Barry is probably not with us anymore, and there's evidence because there's this blood that they didn't see when
Yeah.
they were there.
Very sad.
So they basically resume the competition and claim it as a false alarm. And the officer says that he's gonna take Helen home because her parents are worried about her and she's crying, and she hands over her crown. And then Julie gets back home and searches the Maribel County Library online for David Egan because she's got some reconnaissance to do. And then this douche cop is, taking Helen home, and she's in the back seat and she's sad. She's like, Barry's not here and no one believes me and all this stuff. And the cop says, so you're telling me you killed him with a fish hook? And then he says, like, is that the same one he used to cut all your hair off? Like, he's making a joke about everything that she's been telling him.
Yeah.
He chuckles, just a real piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Typical town cop in a movie. They're slow and they don't get it. What? It's awful.
Oh, And I'm at least happy that Sarah Michelle Gellar says, he used fucking scissors, asshole, and she's like kind of combative with him. So
Yeah.
like, we all love to see sometimes people just like stick it to the cops.
Yeah. Well, especially this cop because he's so awful and terrible.
So she's trying to say that she's telling the truth, and the cop is in disbelief, saying he heard it was an escaped mental patient who had a hook for a hand, and basically discrediting her story by making jokes. And they get to a wooden blocked off road, and he mentions that well, we're gonna have to take the alley. So I love when Helen calls him a shit stick.
Oh my God. I didn't ever remember to see. Never. I think this was like the first time I watched it with like subtitles, and I just never remember. The ultimate diss. Your shit stick.
Listen, shit stick, you can't ignore a murder. So he finally says, fine, I'll contact Barry's parents and put out a search for him.
Yeah.
And he's probably just playing a prank. But then, as they're driving down the alley, they approach someone who's seemingly having car trouble with his hood popped. This is a classic horror movie setup. This is horror movie 101. Cop steps out to help him, and Helen tries to get his attention because she knows that this is the fisherman. So she's yelling, "That's him!" And here we go. Our fisherman gives old police officer a hook to the gut and pulls up just enough to have some blood come out of his mouth, and sayonara.
Hey, bye. Nobody misses you, you terrible shit stick.
And then of course Helen can't get out of the back seat because it's a fucking cop car and the doors are locked. But she does manage to kick the window out. As the killer is, you guessed it, walking slowly up to the car.
So she gives so much in the scene. She is like truly, I feel her fear. She gave a lot here to all of us.
I did really enjoy it. As I was watching this scene, Josh was next to me and he was like, she didn't even take her heels off after she got out of the police car. I didn't even notice that, but then we go right back to Julie. So we're like, again, beep boop, beep boop. We go right back to Julie, who looks up the Susie of it all, big bold letters, finds out that she was killed in a car accident. And the obituary on the computer says that she is survived by her father, Ben Willis, who's a local fisherman. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh.
And then we go right back into Helen running away from the killer. And Helen heads right over to Shivers, their family, whatever it is, store.
Yeah.
And she knows that Elsa is there doing inventory. So she tries to get her attention at the door and she's banging and screaming. And, this is kind of a walk chase scene. So she's got to get in quick. And Elsa, of course, is doing, counting things. And it's suspenseful. It's building. The killer's approaching. And Elsa, goes back and forth, forgets her keys. And then, at the last second, just gets her inside safe. And then right in the nick of time.
Yeah.
And then the killer disappears out of sight. Helen finally gets inside and she says, "I'm being attacked." Elsa then heads over to the back door because you got to lock that one up too. But we see that it shuts lightly before she even gets to the back door. So now something ain't right. And she gets there, but then the killer pops out right behind her. And unfortunately, Elsa gets hooked on phonics.
It's not unfortunate. I've been waiting for this girl to go since the beginning. I have had a vendetta against Elsa. She gives nothing also in this moment. Helen has come in and she says, I'm being attacked. She is she is frightful. She's being serious, even though Elsa never takes her seriously. Even Elsa's kind of like, okay, like maybe, and she goes to lock the door. So she at somewhat believes her. She's like, she turns around and there is a large man with a meat hook, and she doesn't give anything. Like she does like maybe a late scream, like ah, like she gives us nothing. And I felt nothing about her death other than it was time.
Damn. I'm just thinking about Sonya from Mortal Kombat. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, I mean, like, the killer pulls up behind her, and then it's just a one hook done.
She doesn't
Blood.
push him. She does like that. She gives nothing in that moment. Woof.
And then we get Helen, who can't get the phone to work. She's upstairs at this point trying to call for help, and um, I'm pretty sure she hears her sister scream. So then in this scene, I do love this. We see him slowly carrying Elsa's carcass by the rib cage to like hide her in the shadows.
I was like, I was like, that's how he's he's doing it because he uses it as the weapon and he uses it as the carrier. It's so universal because I've been wondering how he's been getting these bodies around so easily.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking too, like this hook has to be sharp if you're, because aren't they really just used to like get the gill, or do you really like stab the fish and like pull it up?
I don't know. I mean, I've always thought that his weapon choice was extremely inefficient. You know what I mean? Like this is such a specific like type of like it's not simple and it's not easy, and I don't know if he was just trying to be dramatic and that's why he chose this thing, but like there was a lot of other weapons he could have chose that would have been better. I don't know if he was just trying to keep with his fisherman theme, which is cool, but
I love the scenes that are like a little bit gory but tasteful at the same time. I mean, like you really feel the effect of just her limp body being carried around. Like it's intense.
rememberable. Yeah.
Memorable for sure. So then we're left with this like eerie lighting, and we got the ceiling fans in the store that are like propelling, and the store playlist is this moody 90s slow jam, and then it cuts off, and the mannequins have all been dressed in this like plastic for the night, and suddenly the store lights turn off, and Helen is saving her breath and knows that the killer is close. And this motherfucker had enough time to disguise himself as one of the dummies underneath the plastic. She takes like one look left and he lunges at her. I just thought, like, who is like, I'm ready to kill this girl, let me hide under this plastic?
Oh, he's being
Um,
extra for sure.
being super extra.
Mm-hmm.
So he lunges at her, and she heads to another door down a hallway, and she turns to see, unfortunately, Elsa, bloody mess next to the toilet of all places, and she screams bloody murder. But I mean, right after this, she hops on a pulley system and gets to higher ground, and the killer is swiping at her feet. This is where we notice that she doesn't have her shoes on anymore. So good on her that she took them off at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But then, she gets up there, he follows her up. She sneaks out a window and falls into some trash before he could hook her hand. And then she continues down her the escape route. And then Julie heads over to the theater, which is now empty. Too little, too late. And it's such a quick right back. Helen is looking for help, and after all, it is the 4th of July, so she's heading towards them. She hears the fireworks going off, and the band is playing, and she, gets down to the street, and I'm thinking for her in this moment, like, okay, we're safe. I mean, the alleyway that she goes down is riddled with car tires stacked up on either side, and I think we're just as hopeful as she is before, Fisherman shows up behind her and takes her in between the tire stacks and slashes her before she gets to safety. Why she takes one final look back, I'm sure she will be wondering in the afterlife. Even her Buffy moves couldn't save her this time.
It reminded me of the scene in Trick or Treat where there's like a parade very close by and somebody's like being murdered like within like this much distance, and that's just like so so frustrating. She was so close. Helen, she's probably my favorite. I liked her the most. She was interesting.
I did like her, but it's Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely hard to watch because she is so close. But stupidity always wins in slashers.
Yeah, I know, but she'll be with Barry though.
Look at us spinning that shit.
That's the positive. And she was so upset. I mean, and she really was really without him only for like an hour or two. So, it's the positive. Loving forever.
Well, we got to get to the other characters in this film. So Julie is aimlessly walking around the parade when she spots Ray's boat on the dock. She runs over and he comes out and asks what she's doing there, and she lets him know all about the discovery she has made, that they didn't kill David, but possibly hit Ben Willis, who was Susie's father. And now it's all starting to make sense, that Ben Willis killed David Egan because David killed Susie in the car crash. So she says, but what if he didn't die? And what if he's still alive? Which, I mean, you should have already known. But I get it. Like, the news report said otherwise. I'm taking it. I'm taking that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God. These kids. I feel like I'm just going to keep saying these fucking kids.
Fucking idiots. Ray is so weird in this scene.
Come aboard. Come inside.
No, we've got to find Helen and Barry.
We will. We will.
What is his deal? Like, why can't he just be normal? He is so creepy and suspicious and weird, as he is the whole movie. But specifically, this scene is where you're like, oh no, he's the one. He has something to do with this. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we are for sure starting to question Ray as a suspect, and so is Julie, as her demeanor changes pretty quickly, and she grabs onto his hand and is ready to get up on the boat before she realizes the name on his boat reads Billy Blue.
This idiot! Choose a different pseudonym, you fuckboy! What the heck? Dumb, Ray.
Ray has been taking men back to his boat to blow them. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Ray's boat is named Billy Blue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's the loser of the film. Personally, that's my opinion.
Well, Julie quickly snatches her hand back, and we understand that it was Ray who visited with Missy, and he was the fisherman she said she had a connection with, and she runs off down the dock chased by Ray before he gets stiff-armed clotheslined by a stranger out of nowhere. Julie screams, but is relieved as the stranger has stopped Ray in his tracks. She mentions that she needs help and she has to call the police, and Ray is knocked out. So this stranger says, "Quick, get on the boat."
We also says, "Easy, child. Don't get on that man's boat. Don't get on a boat." When a man says, "Easy, child," that guy's creepy right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't know what she's thinking. She's probably not thinking, and that's why she's just following the lead.
Yeah.
Julie gets on the stranger's boat and quickly realizes her hat is in one of his rooms, while the guy, who we assume is Ben Willis, undocks the boat. She investigates the rooms a little bit further and finds news articles of them and pictures that were taken of them hanging on the wall. And
Pictures that were taken the same day. There's a picture of Helen in the parade that he went and got that developed hang on his wall in the midst of killing Barry and her sister. He got that developed. This man is a superhero. I don't know how he has the time for it. It's so impressive.
And he's only one guy. He's operating alone. He doesn't no one to run errands for him. I can imagine too that he's doing this all on a slicker. In the summertime, he's developing photos. He's, he goes up to the counter in the 90s. Can you develop these for me? With his hook, he passes it.
He is truly impressive.
That is commendable. Well, basically, Julie knows she's fucked right now. So she's in trouble, girl. And the doors are locked. And he asks if she's in trouble and then flicks that old medallion that was once David Egan's. And she says, "Yes, I'm in a lot of trouble, actually." And he says that it's a shame, it being the 4th of July and all. You kids should be out drinking, partying, running people over, getting away with murder, things like that.
Dun dun dun. And you know what? We see this man has just like a faint scar. His face isn't mangled. He has a faint, he's got a cut. He had a cut on his forehead. They knew what that dude looked like. He's idiots. You idiots. It's unbelievable.
And then pretty much everything starts to shift. She says, "Ben Willis?" And he says, "Good, I see you've been doing your homework too." Ray comes out on the dock. He comes to, he wakes up, but the boat's already left. And Ben comes out with his hook while Julie finds a flare gun. And then he pushes the gas on the boat forward, and the gun, like, pathetically is jolted out of Julie's hands into the water.
All I wrote was, she didn't deserve that gun. She didn't deserve it. How could somebody? And it was a flare gun. Oh, Julie.
The acting of her throwing that gun is hilarious.
Unbelievable.
So Ray revs up a little Yamaha boat and goes after it. He goes after Julie. He's got to help her. And Julie takes a little trap door on the hull of the boat and pulls the grate over her head, which he tries to pull up with his hook. But it's under here that is where They store all the fish on ice. So our anti-hero Ray quickly catches up and romantically dives onto the side of the boat and climbs up the net, which catches Ben's attention. "Welcome aboard, Ray," he says. They get into a scuffle while Julie underneath starts pulling levers. She pops up in a little crawl space and witnesses Ray get knocked off the boat into the water. Ray, the little cockroach, miraculously holds onto a part of the boat, dragging in the water. How does this even happen?
Ray is finally bringing something to the table. He's finally doing something here. Good for Ray. I'm happy for him.
So Julie sees that and pops back into her gopher hole, and Ben chases after her. We're literally going to be the only ones laughing at this. It's because you could just picture it.
It's an excellent description. The excellent is Yamaha.
They make it a point. This product placement is real. Diet Coke and Yamaha sponsored. I know you do that. So, but she goes back down on the inside of the boat and she gets trapped inside. But she does find a small compartment to get into because it's basically, trap door after she's only got so many options. And then she winds up getting into this like sort of ice chamber. And I have a fun fact about the ice chamber. The large chunks of ice on the boat were made out of gelatin rather than actual ice, so that Jennifer Love Hewitt could be more comfortable and interact with it without getting any frostbite.
All I'm learning is that she's a bit of a wimp, Can't take a cadaver, a fake cadaver, and the ice is too cold. Get a grip.
Get your hands on that ice. You need to play Julie James. So she's in this ice chamber and she starts crawling around looking for another way out, while Ray at this point climbs his way back onto the boat for the second time. And while Julie is tinkering around down there, Helen's frozen corpse emerges from the ice hill. And then as she backs away from Helen's body, she manages to place her hand on Barry's frozen face. And it's basically, we say like, oh, that's where he put the bodies.
Well, that's how he kept Max so fresh. It had been days since he killed him. He looked like brand new, like it just happened. So he's efficient. He's fast. He doesn't waste time. He's innovative. The
puns that we keep coming out with, I mean, you don't even know that you said efficient.
I didn't even realize that. Wow.
You're so good.
Mm-hmm. We are.
Wow.
Just like Ben.
Jiminy crickets.
Mm-hmm.
Upstairs, Ray is anticipating the killer because he sees him coming around and he sees his shadow, and he knows that Julie only has so many places to go and that the killer is going to be at the end of the road. So he opens up this only door on the boat, and Julie is there scared and screaming. And then kind of in like a true like booby trap moment, Ray unhooks a line of the boat which sends this like heavy metal grapple hook right to Ben's face, which knocks him out, but It should have caused a lot more damage.
Yeah. Yeah. Very unrealistic there. I mean, there's a lot of things we could pick apart that were unrealistic, but yeah, for sure.
Like, there was no broken nose, no teeth missing. It was like Home Alone. That's how it felt.
That's how it felt. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's an excellent movie to reference for this.
Ray slides down a rope and extends his hand to get Julie out. And then, of course, Ben wakes up. And this guy's got 9 lives. He backhands Ray with the hook, grabs Julie, and says, "Happy 4th of July, Julie." She pleads with him that it was just an accident, and Ben quotes the tagline of the movie, basically, and says, "When you leave someone for dead, you better make sure they're really dead."
Yeah. Onto that, I agree, Ben. These fuckheads. He woke up as they were dumping his body. Yeah. And they thought he was dead. They got what they deserved. It's chaos. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say, but he ain't wrong. So then he raises his hook to kill her, and it gets caught on a rope, which Ray then pushes this fucking lever to propel him upwards. It's another booby trap.
This man is unstoppable. He's killed, he's developed film, he's walking around in probably 90-degree weather in the rain slicker. He's unstoppable, and he gets booby trapped like that. That's the most unbelievable part of the movie. You couldn't get him like that. I don't believe it. Just like that. Just, oh no! Like, it was way too easy. That would never happen.
And just like that, he's going up the pole like a flag, and his hand just gets cut off in the process. But then what it does is, it like severs his hand, and then he like somehow flips upside down, still caught in this rope, and then like thrown off the boat.
So he's still alive, though, is the thing. Yeah? Like, we never see him die. He gets his hit, which stinks. Kind of funny, though, because now he would have an actual hook for a hand. So, which would make him more efficient. So I don't think he'd even mind that. But they very clearly set us up for something more, right?
Yeah. I mean, he just falls into the water, and then Julie and Ray embrace as the Sweet Susie, the boat, that's the name, proceeds onward. And then, we get a scene where the sheriff's department seizes the boat, and Ray and Julie talk about how they didn't even kill anyone. And Ray divulges that he had to know who the person was that they hit because his guilt was eating him alive, and that's why he went to see Missy, and turns into a dramatic, like, "I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It's because I wanted you back and I couldn't lose you again." He tells her he loves her. Classic shit.
Well, he doesn't tell her. So he had a romantic relationship with Anne Heche. Him and Missy were sweet on each other. That's a whole other story that I would love to know the details on. Well,
He says, "Nobody gets me the way you do." And Julie responds with, "I understand your pain."
Oof. Oof.
I love when the officer asks if either of them know why this man wanted them dead, and they both lie and say no.
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 Well, of course. Of course they're going to say that. What I just don't understand is how they're acting like it's over. It's done. Why do they think that? Oh, these fools.
Well, I mean, like, they pull up the net that's attached to the boat, and it's just his hand with the hook like still attached, but it's only his hand, so they didn't find the body. And like then you just go on with it. Like
You go on with your life?
they can't be
Okay.
that stupid.
They are that stupid.
Like we're supposed to believe that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, then it goes just no. Yeah, then it goes to 1 year later, and Julie's, having the time of her life.
Yeah. Her hair
Like
looks
nothing.
great.
Oh my God.
New
She's
lady.
she's a new lady. She's back at school. She's in the communal shower. She's perky and prime and promptly in just a towel, talking to Ray over the phone, letting him know that she'll be visiting him in just a couple weeks, and she tells him she loves him, and then her friend lets her know that she got something in the mail. The steam from the shower is clouding up the room, and she leaves that to retrieve her note, which looks distinctly like the one she got before. She's very nervous opening it, but it ends up being an invite to the Kappa Beta Gamma pool party this Saturday at noon. This is why we need the video. I need your side eyes. So she laughs it off and returns to the steam room. But on the shower door, someone wrote, "I still know."
Dun dun dun.
Interestingly enough, with no streaks from the condensation. It is just.
Ben is perfect. He doesn't make mistakes. I'm not surprised.
No, not a single droplet.
No.
So she scans the room to see if anyone is there, but we don't see anything. We do, however, hear the spinning of the medallion again from the beginning of the film, and all of a sudden, Ben jumps through the shower glass, and one last final jump scare before we go to credits.
And we know we're getting a sequel before the movie even came out. That's the beautiful part. Brilliant.
For sure.
Brilliant. Although they don't mention any of that in the second film, so I'm gonna point that out.
Well, you know what? Because I was like, I remember this last scene, and I remember thinking, how do they begin the second movie? And I think it's meant to be like this shower scene is meant to be like a nightmare.
The dream, yeah. Which, yeah, I guess that's how they play it off. And maybe they were counting on that. Whether if it was successful, they could do a sequel, or they could just leave us with this last final scare, like Carrie or whatever. I mean, but they left us thinking that anyway because they never found the body. I don't know if they needed it, but it was cool. One little extra oomph for all of us. I dig it.
You know what I did read? The writer wanted this movie ultimately, like his inspiration was Halloween meets Jaws. He said Jaws is a film I watched as well because it's set in a seaside town, and he wanted the feel of that, and also like the 4th of July too, like that
Right.
coming up. So there's a lot of stuff in there that kind of like nods to Jaws, and like the Croaker Festival, like the town.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because that's set in 4th of July too. That makes sense. Like the connections. I didn't think about that. Well, good job, Johnny. Narrator. Nailed it.
I really don't know.
I do. You nailed it. You nailed it. I know what you did last summer.
At Stoli Doli Scaries, we do things a little bit differently. And our rating system is 0 to 5. How many Stoli Dolis would it take for you to enjoy this film. Do you have your rating?
I do. Uh, I think one drink in this movie is a perfect marriage. It's, eases you up.
I will also give this movie one Stoli Doli because I think that like I said before, it was a little bit different when I was younger. It was more it was scarier for sure, and I didn't think about the decision making when I watched it when I was younger. I was just like, oh my god, we just hit a guy with a car. Like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm still fucking young and I can't, like, maybe we do hide the body. Maybe we do. And I was thinking along those same lines. I was like, what would we do? Like, me and my fucking dork friends.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I couldn't say then, probably. If I was like 10 or 11 or something. But
Yeah.
now it's a little bit different. Now you're like, this is funny, this is comedy, this is I wouldn't say wonderful acting. I would say wonderful actors, because a lot of these people went on to do bigger and better things. I think you may have to issue an apology of some sort. Um,
I do. I mispronounced Ryan Phillippe's name for the entire first half, and I do feel quite bad about that. He didn't deserve that. It is a tricky name. It's a tricky name. Could have happened to anybody, but it happened to me, and I own up to my mistakes, and that was unfortunate. But I love you, Ryan, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you see this and know that I'm very sorry for my mistake.
I think we also agreed that he's a fine father right now. On the socials, I pretty much only follow him to see if he posts thirst traps. So, thank you, Ryan, for your performance as Barry in this film. Today, I think I would love to have one drink watching this and be totally fine. I think it gives a lot of really great things. Like I said, the acting, not so great. The actors, amazing. So many icons on this cast. I thought the writing is something that was familiar, like right after Scream. I thought that it was done well. I love slasher movies. It's my favorite kind of horror movie. I thought the music was great. The 90s, like, uh, bops. I could watch it. I could enjoy myself with zero drinks.
Yeah.
I think there are some things maybe that are a little unforgivable, but uh,
Yeah. I think I just feel like I enjoy it more with one drink, even though, like you said, I would watch it with nothing. But I think one drink is the perfect, sets the mood, sets the tone, and it puts you a little bit at ease for some of the more questionable moments in the film. Yeah. But love it. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in.
it's been so fun talking with you about this film and with my bestie Kyryn. Tune in next time. Listen to us talk more shit about other movies. But until then, don't run over anyone with your car.